God's presence is so real in this place. And I think so many times, and what I was going to talk to us about tonight is just on living an uncommon life. Living a life that's set apart. Living a life that's radical. If I can be honest with you, life is never going to be easy. And if it ever is easy, you need to check yourself probably because you're probably doing something wrong. You're going to go through times in life when you feel like you're doing everything right, everything the way that you're supposed to do it, and people don't understand you, people don't get you. Things just fall apart. And I think a lot of times, and I'm speaking from personal experience here, I think a lot of times the reason why is because God uses those situations not for Him to find out, but for us to find out what we're holding on to. I mean, when you get married, an old man or old woman, and when I say old, I'm talking like me, like 30. Man, I'm ancient. Man, I know when I was like 16, 17, I'm like 30. Man, Jesus is going to come back before I turn 30. That's like ancient of days type stuff. I'm about to turn 31 and I'm still here. Right. See, that's what I'm talking about. But, it's hard. I've got a wife. I've got like the most kicking awesome 4-year-old son. And I've got a baby on the way. And it comes to that, thank you. And it comes to all that stuff. And it's like I look at the economy and I look at finances and I look at jobs. And I just look at all this stuff. And I'm just like, what the crap? Like the adults know what I'm talking about. It's like you look at all this stuff and you're like, dude, God, what's going on? But I think so many times God uses situations like this to find out what we're holding on to. What are you holding on to tonight? You see, Christianity is not about coming to church. It's not about giving a little bit in tithes. That's not what it's about. It's about being abandoned to God. It's about making prayer the first thing you turn to whenever you're not feeling well, whenever there's a situation in your life. Not, well, I've tried aspirin, I've tried Tylenol and pills and doctors and everything else. Well, I might as well try God. No. God's got to be the first thing we turn to. The first thing. You're going through something at school, Like when I was at college, I went to a Christian college. And so like before we'd have a test, like we prayed at the beginning of every class. As a class, we prayed at the beginning of every class, And so like you'd go in, you'd be ready for this test, and you'd like want to pray, like God help me pass this test. And then the professor would have to get up there and say some very biblical prayer like, Lord, I pray that you help each student in accordance with how much they studied. That's not what I'm talking about. That's not the type of prayer I want, God. I want a prayer that even though I studied like 10 minutes, that I still get an A. How many of you guys know what I'm talking about? I know you guys have, be honest, you've taken a test and you didn't study as much as you're supposed to, and you said a prayer before the test. You're like, God, please help me just pass this test. And I promise I will study for all my tests after this. How many of you actually study for the next test like you were supposed to? Exactly. Good job, Molly. Way to be a PK. All right, we got a couple over here too. You failed all your tests? Right on. But this is my thing. This is my whole point in it. God, if you just help me this little bit, then I'll do this for you. But yet we never follow through with that other little bit that we say. What would happen? What would happen in your life? And I want each one of you to think, every situation that you're going through in your life right now, every bad situation, every good situation, the friends that you're friends with that need God, If you were to really get abandoned and live an uncommon life, a life that's apart and different from reality, if you were to live an uncommon life, what would that change? Would it change the way that you study? Would it change the way that you approach school? If you got abandoned to God and went all in after God, would it change the way that you talk to your friends? Boyfriends, would it change the way you acted towards your girlfriend? Girlfriends, would it change the way you acted towards your boyfriends? Let me just throw this out there. Would you even be dating that person if you were abandoned to God? Oh. Hello? Is that better? No more ringing? Is there ringing? Yeah. Okay, there we go. Would it change your life? How many of you would say it would change your life? If you became abandoned to God, would it change the way that you approach your life? Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. I got a hand up here. All right, I got a few hands. It would change my life. I'm still working to getting to that abandoned point. I'm still trying to get there. But that's the path I'm on. I wake up every day and there's things I should do different. But I still want to be abandoned to God because I know it would change my life. And I strive for that. And when God uses situations like this, sometimes it's pain, sometimes it's migraine, sometimes it's relationships, sometimes it's school crap. Sometimes God uses this stuff just to take everything else away and say, okay, Brian, Mikey, what's hurting? What hurts the most right now? To get us to address that issue. To get us to address that point in our life. Because if we abandon and live an uncommon life to God and things really would get different and get better, then why aren't we striving for that? Instead of striving for the casual American church. Because, I mean, in America, that's what it is. Right? I mean, it's part of the routine. You go to church on Wednesday nights, you go to church on the weekends, you go out to eat or something afterwards. You know what I'm talking about? I mean, it's routine, right? Yeah. You want to go do something Sunday? Can't. Got to go to church, but I can't afterwards. All right? But what if it was more than just church? What if it became more than just church? What if it became more than just Wednesday night? What if it became more than just a Sunday? What if it became more of when you're at the school cafeteria, you're looking around, Jesus bless this food, amen. You know? What if you dared to live an uncommon faith? What if? Because I think so many times we come in here, we're like, oh, I'm good enough. And I go to church, you know, I pray, I listen to my Christian rock music, it's all good. But it's not. Because Jesus said, your love for me has to be so great that everything else in your life looks like hate. And again, listen to me. Be very clear. He's not telling you to hate your mom and hate your daddy, all right? You don't go home and say, I hate you, and it's biblical, all right? Don't do that, all right? Because your mom and daddy are going to pull out a belt, and they're going to hate you right back, okay? All right? Matter of fact, the belt my dad used the entire time I was growing up, he still has. Yes. And I know he'd still probably use it on me if I ain't going to do nothing. That's a big boy. That's some good loving. That's right. But here's the deal. Here's the deal. The love that we have for God's got to be so great that it dwarfs everything else in our life. Because you're not going to be able to avoid problems. You're not going to be able to avoid issues. Sometimes you're still going to have to go through pain. Sometimes you're still going to have to go through situations. You're going to end up at jobs where people don't appreciate you. You're going to end up in relationships where the other person just don't get you. People be mean to you. They do you wrong. Getting abandoned in God isn't going to change any of that. But it changes how you approach that. It changes how you handle that. Bible talks about a peace that passes all understanding. And I think that's really what it means. Is that, like when things falling down around you and you shouldn't have a peace, I think when you get abandoned to God, he gives you peace. And when it talks about a peace that passes all understanding, it's you have a peace when you shouldn't have a peace. Does that make sense? Yeah? But this is my question, and I'm not giving us the full message because it's, because of what time it is and stuff, but this is what I want to ask you tonight. What would happen if you got totally abandoned and lived an uncommon life for God? Because there's not a single person in here that can't tell me your life would be better. And again, I'm not saying you wouldn't go through issues, but your life would be better. My life would be better. Every one of these adults, their life would be better. And here's what I want us to do. I was going to end this way anyways. There's a song I want you guys to listen to. It was written by Matthew West. How many of you guys have heard of Matthew West?